Can you please hear me? Hello, I can now see please.
Yes, I can hear you.
So, you're welcome.
I can hear you. Right. Like the line is breaking.
No, see,
Mm, okay.
oh,
So,
okay.
the line is breaking.
Good evening to everyone. First, I want to thank the coordinator for making it possible for us to meet this time to talk about a very important issue on our pensions. That's Ghana's pension system. I will say, is it working? That's the bigger question we need to ask ourselves this evening. I'll first look at the topic, the pension industry in Ghana, the need for teachers to plan towards their personal retirement. The need for teachers to plan, the need for us to plan for our retirement. How has the system been designed for us to plan for our retirement? That's what we are going to discuss this evening. And I'll group my slides into two. The first part, we are going to look at the background of pension reforms in Ghana, how you have evolved up to this new pension system. And second, we look at this new pension system, what is in it and what we can do to be secured and secure ourselves in the future. How beneficial a new 3-tier scheme has been designed for us to utilize, and look at the critical questions if it has been fully been utilized or underutilized, the benefits, the advantages, and the disadvantages. So look at the pension industry in Ghana. Let's quickly look at our background, where we are coming from. You've realized that from before January 1972, the country was using the Cap 30 pension scheme for public servants. Somewhere in January 1972, the Social Security and National Insurance Senate Pension Scheme was also introduced as a mandatory and universal pension scheme for all employees, both in the private and the public sectors. There were other public sector pension schemes, such as the Ghana University Staff, the Ghana Armed Forces schemes, which had close resemblance to the Cap 30 schemes in form or substance. They look a bit similar. There were disparities between the two major schemes, which over the years became more pronounced, leading to some agitations and protests by some public sector workers on the Smith scheme, demanding to be placed on the Cap 30, which was considered more favorable, particularly the lump sum element of it. That's the amount you take home. That's what you say, the lump sum. So between the Senate and those placed on the Cap 30, over the period, as it's being run pari passu, you realize that there was agitation among the workers, because those on the Cap 30 were being given a better lump sum, a considerable better lump sum, more favorable than that on the Senate, which was introduced. And so there was a lot of agitations in the system. The Cap 30 and Senate schemes paid almost the same monthly pensions. However, the Cap 30 lump sum benefit was 2.5 times better than that of the Senate lump sum benefits. Let's look at the disparities. So Senate benefits are funded. The reasons for the disparity. We saw that Senate benefits were funded from the contributions by members, whilst that of the Cap 30 was funded, the benefits were funded or paid through the consolidated fund. And so it was not linked to their contributions like the Senate one. And so they were receiving a much better lump sum than that on the Senate. The Cap 30 is not based on a actuarial principle. Thus, the lump sum payment is not discounted to allow for time value of money. Sorry. Meaning that on the Senate is based on a actuarial principle, where your longer contribution time, your contribution amount, all determines the kind of benefits you are going to gain at the end of the day, at the end of your service. Let me say that. But that of the Cap 30 was being paid directly from the consolidated fund. For that matter, if you are on retirement, you know that you are going to receive this. And that makes the Cap 30, in terms of lump sum payment, far more better than that on the Senate. And this raised a lot of agitations in the country. So how was it being cost, or the cost affecting government? See, government as an employer spent about 12.5% of employee salary for Senate benefits. However, government spends between 24 and 29% of employee salary to pay Cap 30 benefits. So there was a huge difference. The agitation started, people started calling for fairness. Fairness was being called mostly by the Senate contributors. They were asking for better remuneration during pension. And so there was a lot of agitations. See, apart from the disparity, there were situations where two workers in the same office, one would be on the Cap 30 while the other on Senate scheme. In addition to the disparity, there was also what we call the unfairness pension scheme that operated in the country beside their limitations. Also failed to consider the plight of workers in the informal sector, who constitute about 85% of the working populace in Ghana. So in a nutshell, the country's pension system was in a chaotic mode. Some, because of the low remuneration, decided to come out with their own scheme. Others, who was restricted to the Senate, also felt unfairly treated because they are woefully compensated with the same colleague. A colleague may be on Cap 30 with the same level Senate, and the one on Cap 30 will be gaining far more better than that on the Senate. So there was a need for reformation of the pension system in the country. So along the line, in July 2004, the government initiated a major reform in the pension system in Ghana. A presidential commission was inaugurated and reports its findings to the government in somewhere March 2006. Yeah, 2006. The overall objective of the report was to ensure a retirement income security for a Ghanaian worker, whether in the formal or the informal sector. That was the notion. They were to make sure that the formal workers are at peace with their remuneration at pension. And for that matter, they have to also include the informal sector, which according to studies forms about 85% of the populace. So let's quickly look at some of the observations of the committee. We said pensions in Ghana covered about 10% of the nation's workforce, mainly those employed in the formal sector then. The vast majority of the workers in the informal had no coverage. We say even though membership of the Senate pension scheme was open to workers in the informal sector on a voluntary basis, the patronage was very low because of lack of education and proper channels to even register and make payments. Make it very difficult for the informal sector to join. And this was mainly because the threshold entry in terms of their contribution and benefit structure was too high for most workers in the informal sector. And because benefits provided were not consistent with the priorities of the people living in poor circumstances, whose social protection needs were essentially short-term. We also have low monthly pension payments under both the Senate and the Cap 30 schemes. That's their benefit at the end of the month. That of the Senate and the Cap 30 was similar. It was very low. And so there was no agitation over there. But the agitations started from the lump sum payment, where those on the Cap 30 were taking more, far more, better than that on the Senate pension. So you see, for workers who enter the job market at an early age, the long waiting period to access their pension under the Senate scheme, even after qualifying, as compared to the Cap 30, was a source of worry. You also realize back in those days, after service, it would take a longer time for our retirees to start receiving their benefits. Complaints, some will even die before their benefit will start trickling. And before we say Jack, it will cease because of confirmation and verification, because the beneficiary is already dead. A lot of bureaucracies in here and there all gravitated into the formation of the new pension scheme. That's the 3-tier pension scheme. I wouldn't waste time. I want us to zoom into the 3-tier pension scheme. All right. So that you can have time to discuss and answer our questions, our real-time questions, and see the issues we have now. So, as I said earlier on, the agitations here and there resulted in the formation of a presidential commission, which came out with observations, of which I have glanced through. And through the observations, they put in place a new pension scheme system, what we call the 3-tier pension scheme. So the question is, what is this new 3-tier pension scheme you are talking of? Let's quickly look at the regulatory structure of the new 3-tier pension scheme. As it is today, we cannot comfortably say it is new because it is over 10 years now. So something over 10 years now can never be new. But in the pension history, we can only admit that it's the new current system, it's the current system we are using. So the 3-tier pension scheme, that's the current system we are using under the umbrella of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, NPRA. We have the major first three, the first tier as mandatory, the second tier also as mandatory, and the third tier as voluntary. The first tier, which is mandatory, is under the Basic National Social Security and National Insurance Trust. That's SNIT. That's the first tier. The second tier, which is also mandatory, is an occupational pension scheme managed privately by approved trustee. And their duty is to pay a lump sum benefit. That of the first year, their duty now is to pay benefits, a monthly pension. So after retirement, Senate is no longer going to pay you any lump sum. It's rather your second tier. That's the occupational pension, which is going to pay you a lump sum benefit. And that is privately managed under an approved trustees. We have trustees under NPRA, licensed by NPRA, who manages our second tier and third tiers. The third tier is a voluntary scheme, and it's also privately managed. And the third tier comprises the informal, both the formal and the informal sector. We have products, hybrid products under the third tier, of which they have all been designed to help you to gain a sustainable income during retirement. What over the years you've seen is the first year, which is mandatory, is being done smoothly by employers. The second tier, which is mandatory, is also being done, I can't say fully, because some are still not in touch of the new pension regulatory system. That's the third-tier new pension system. But it's also being done, it's mandatory. For that matter, if you are aware or you are not aware, from after 2008 coming, when we see that the person was your employee, for that matter, you've taken not being aware of the system, and for that matter, not paying their second tier, you will still, the system applies a penal charge, of which it will still be calculated for you to pay for them. So it's a matter of time. That one will catch up with you. But the issue comes with the third tier, which is voluntary. And so most employers are not interested because they take it as a cost factor to them. And that's where, as workers, we need to take our pensions into our own hands. We need to take charge of that and begin to make sure, as young as we are, we will grow to maturity at a certain point in time. We will grow to retire at a certain age. And for that reason alone, we should make sure that we contribute to the third tier, which the government has made it voluntary, but it is very significant in terms of our income security in old age. I'm laying emphasis on it because we've not been utilizing it, and it is becoming a danger to ourselves and to the country as a whole, because the more the people are impoverished, the more the country becomes impoverished. And for that reason alone, we should take charge of our own pension. So that one is also privately managed. So if you look at the old system, the new system, you can see that we only have one mandatory one, which is under Senate for management. That's the benefit payment scheme. For our lump sums, the government has given us the free will, the option to monitor it ourselves. And so we have the second tier being privately managed, the third tier also being privately managed. So as I speak now, if you cannot even tell us how much you are worth, all things being equal, if you are to retire today, you don't know what lump sum, the value of your lump sum you are taking to the house, then you have an issue. What it means is You are not monitoring your pensions. You are not taking charge of your own pension. You've left the responsibility to someone else, of which maybe you don't even know because it's privately managed. I've always said that the worst thing you can do to yourself is to visit your pension statement every quarter. So before a year ends, at least you've paid a private visit to your pension statement 4 times. That's the worst thing you can, or the worst harm you can cause yourself. You need to monitor that your payments, your monthly payments are being deducted, especially for your second tier. And if you are doing the third tier, likewise, it's being done for you because it's all about time value of money. The earlier your contribution goes, the earlier it compounds an interest for you, and the better it becomes. And so there wouldn't be any argument that you work together from start to end. You work together from beginning of our working active force to retirement at the same level. And it will surprise you that someone will get a better and a handsome remuneration than you, that same person. And you start complaining. Meanwhile, it's your fault. You are not watching your SNET. You are not watching your contributions. You are not watching your second tier, your third tier. You are not taking them into consideration. All that you are following is, oh, maybe they've paid. You've assumed that they've paid. And so you are okay. Who is managing it? You are not even concerned about those things. How is the management being done? Have you been checking your contributions as against your interest accrued? Is it growing or is it decreasing? Under this new pensions regulatory system, the private sector is in to create a kind of competition. So if one service provider is not giving you the required growth, if you are watching and you see that it's not giving you the required growth, you can port yourself from that particular service provider to another service provider and monitor performance, because this is your own lump sum that you are managing. That's why it's very important that if even you cannot do a monthly monitoring, at least every quarter, you have 4 quarters in a year, pay a visit at the end of each quarter, and that will be 4 visits in a year. I don't think this is too much to do. I don't think at all. This is not too much to do. Paying you're looking at your statement 4 times in a year to monitor performance vis-a-vis your contributions. Because it will surprise you. You may be thinking your contributions are being sent, and before you say that, maybe if you left one institution to the other, you go and check it. Your contributions were not being fully paid. Some months are missing. Now it becomes an issue. Meanwhile, this, if you have been watching, could have been solved easily, and you could have accrued the interest you needed to be accrued in time. Pensions contributions comes with time value of money. In fact, in a financial world, we value time. Time is money. That's what we talk about. Time is money. So the earlier it is paid, the better it is for you. What do I mean by that? We can be at the same level with somebody, with a different institution, but the same salary, the same contribution. Let's assume that one his accountant is prompt and it pays on time. Yours, it could be kept for a long time before the contribution will come. At the end of the day, the same active number of years, the person will be better than you in terms of lump sum. The person will be better than you, far better than you, because the person will join his contributions, will join the portfolio earlier, and will be accruing and compounding for the person than you, which your contribution has been lingering for 6 months before it was being sent for management, for investment. So our pensions now, I always say that the system we have now is one of the best in the world. When you count even the first 3 best pension schemes in the world, Ghana's 3-tier new pension scheme is one of them. Sorry. But the question is, are we fully utilizing it? Are we even interested? When you talk of pension, some think it's far away, and so keep a deaf ear to it. Pension, oh, I'm not there yet. I have 20 more years. I have 25 more years. I have 30 more years. Before you say Jack, age has advanced towards you. And for that matter, you cannot make any meaningful impact in terms of your pension benefits. And the question, that's why we are speaking now. That's why they need to educate now. This education is very broad. As stakeholders, we cannot do it alone. You indulge each and everybody to also educate his immediate environment, his or her immediate environment, contacts, so that we can achieve a holistic pension benefit as a country. Let's look at some of the tax exemptions under this 3-tier pension scheme. The contributions, we have about employer 13%, employee 5.5%, making 18.5% in total. The first 5% to first year, the 13.5% to Senate. Out of the 13.5% to Senate, 2.5 out of it is for the National Health Insurance Scheme. So how much will be left now? About 11%. Is that also? And your 5% will goes to the second tier as your contribution. That one is a second tier. So 11% will go to your Senate. So in all the 18.5%, the components, I say again, the 13.5% deduction goes to the Senate account, of which 2.5% is reimbursed to the National Health Insurance Scheme, leaving Senate with 11% to manage for you. The 5% goes to your tier 2. Your tier 2, that's your mandatory tier 2 contributions. That's where it goes to. That's where I said, as I speak now, if you don't know the value of your tier 2, you have an issue. And maybe we need to help you to give you a vibrant fund manager and a service provider trustee. Because the growth of the tier 2 should also, you are partially off, should I even say partially, you are fully concerned. Because that's the lump sum you'll be taking with you to retirement, to rest and relax and have a comfortable retirement. That's the lump sum you'll be taking. So you should take it as a full responsibility and monitor its growth. That is where it is privately managed. Their contributions are up to 35% on your payroll for a tax exemption. That's when you look at your basic salary, you have an allowance of 35% tax exemption as contribution towards your Senate, or should I say Senate, towards your pension. Out of which 18.5% is what? Mandatory. And that's this thing. The 18.5% is what I said earlier on. The 5% will go to will hit your tier 2 account. The 13.5% will go to your Senate account, but the Senate will reimburse 2.5% to the National Health Insurance Scheme. and the 11% they will manage for you. What is left with the 16.5? That's a bigger question. What is left now is the 16.5% tax-free benefit. What have you been doing with it? You've kept silence on it. You are not utilizing it. Meanwhile, each and every day you are growing. You've given you a tax allowance of 35%. You've made 18.5 compulsory for you. The 16.5%, which also have the same tax relief exemptions, you are not utilizing it. And you go back, you hit 60 soon, you go on retirement, and your benefits are small. Your lump sum is nothing to write home about because you were not even monitoring. And you complain. But this time you can't complain because the government has let the management of your pension also in your hands. So who are you going to complain to? You complain to yourself that you've done yourself a disservice by not monitoring. The 16.5% left is the voluntary one. That's the third tier, of which the government made it voluntary. That if you want to, do it. But don't let us forget that I told you initially that we are coming from somewhere to this place. We are coming from agitations upon agitations to this place. So even though it's voluntary, it is not there just for the numbers' sake. It has been happening upon a numerous studies, detailed analysis, before those figures were added up to give you the 35% tax-free exemption. So when we say Ghana has one of the best pension scheme system, but its contributors are receiving poor remunerations at the end of their service, it's because we are not utilizing it fully. It's because we are not taking a full advantage. I bet you those who are taking full advantage of it, they live a better life even than their active service. And when I say utilizing it fully and in time, I've emphasized that the pension contributions are supposed to be in time. That is why when you start work, you need to start to be serious about your pensions. Don't wait until you are 45, 50, thereabout. You are hitting, your direction is getting towards pension before you realize that, oh, and let me listen to those people. The people going around talking pension. Now let me pay attention to them. I think now I'm getting of age. It may be too late for you. Because if you are not lucky and your remunerations are not big enough, your basic salary is not huge enough to compensate some of these losses, you will be laughing at the wrong side. It becomes a pity. So let's take charge now, especially the voluntary one. That's the 16.5%, where it is voluntary for us. If our employers are not interested in making the contributions for us, we also have, it's a personal pension scheme. And for that reason, we also have the duty. The duty will be fall upon us to do the contributions ourselves. Let's start for ourselves. After all, it's our personal kind of thing. And for the tier 3, it matures after 10 years of contribution. And so we will have no excuse of not doing it. If you also take the word voluntary as our catchword and ignore it, that is at our own disadvantage. So I'll let you now, and it's now, that if you have taken that word voluntary and have centered yourself from contributing to the tier 3 up to now, then start today, start this evening. Start something this evening. We say investment income is also tax exempt. retirement or pension benefit is tax exempt. This is what I have talked about with them. So, as I've said earlier on, I wouldn't want to take too much of your time. I think I've spoken a lot about the tier 1, the tier 2, and 3, which are privately managed. And for that matter, we as contributors are also part of the management, because you've given the opportunity or the chance to monitor performance, and if you are not satisfied with performance, to also put ourselves out of it and look for a more performing trustees to work with. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't want to talk too much, but rather wait for your questions so that we can have a fruitful discussion. But before I will conclude on this discussion, I want to ask, have you ever thought about what you would like to do after retirement? Or it's too early for you? Will you have enough savings to implement your plans? Getting ready for retirement is a long-term plan that requires time and commitment. And I always say, you have to start preparations right now. You don't go and start business in your retirement. You don't go and start building in your retirement. You don't use your retirement package to build. You don't use your retirement package for a business, a new business plan. Oh, I want to be a supplier of cement, and for that matter, I'll use my retirement package. It doesn't come that way, because in every business, there are flaws, ups and downs. Before you graduate yourself from these flaws, your money is gone. And at your old age, where are you going to get the same money again? So the long-term adage says time flies. It's true. And one eternal thing we all have to bear in mind is retirement will come, whether you choose to plan or you choose not. Whether you listen to what we are saying or you don't listen, you one day go on retirement. And the ghost of what we are saying now will be hunting you. Don't allow yourself to face this ghost, but rather do something to arrest and put this ghost into prison, eternal prison, and have a better financial system or enjoy a better life in your retirement. Thank you, Mr. Coordinator. I'll pause here and listen to their questions so that we can have a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? You can hear me, but I can't hear you. What was the question? If I heard you right, you say, how do you make sure your tier 2 is well managed? Is that also? I will say one. If that was the question, because I couldn't hear you well. I will say one. First, you need to make sure that you check that your contributions are intact for the number of years you've been contributing by monitoring your statement. So if you monitor your statement, you check your statement very well. You have a contribution column and interest column. If your pensions are being well managed, at least your interest column should be growing. Your interest column should be growing. So your contribution column against your interest column, contribution column every month against your interest column. If you go there quarterly, you will see that from January, February, March, I have these contributions going in. It has been paid. Fine. What has been my interest, or how is my interest faring? Go and look. I have this particular figure of interest. Oh, in January, February, it increased by this margin. March, it increased by this margin. Fine. You are growing because you are also contributing more. So pari passu, as more money is big, as much is given, more is expected. Is that not so? That is how it is. So to whom much is given, much is expected. So if you are at worst of, I should be at par. But the moment your interest growth declines, then there's something amiss of which you need to check. That's the little I can say for now.
All right. All right.
Mr. Regan, I think you were asking another question.
Yes. So can I have access to my year two if I choose to exit teaching space if for time?
If you choose to exit teaching, is that a question? Exit one profession or stop working? If I understand your question, it's like if he chooses to exit one profession, but it doesn't mean he or she has stopped working. Is that not so? So the tier 2 is for retirement. So if you exit one profession, it's your contribution for a period that will cease, but not that you can go and claim. No. The tier 2 are paid on retirement. When you're going on retirement, that's the lump sum you are taking. That's what it is meant for. You don't exit one profession and you go there that you want to claim. No. I only said the tier 3. That is where when you are 10 years, you have contributed for a period of 10 years, you qualify to redeem. But the tier 2, that's not the case. You can use it as collateral for mortgages and other things, but you cannot go there and take it. Unless you are going on retirement. If it is voluntary retirement after the age of 55, fine. They will do that for you. If it is at the age of 60, and when you are going on retirement, the system itself will prompt you and eject you out of it. So they have to pay you.
Also have a question for one is accent. So how do I plan my retirement? How do I plan time with myself?
Your SMIT contributions are part of your retirement. I mean, that's the first tier. The part that hits the SMIT is your first tier. That's your benefit scheme. I don't normally refer to them as finding your retirement, whichever, because that's your benefit scheme. When I say a benefit scheme, it's something that you stand to benefit based on your actuarial calculation, how much you are due each month on retirement. So it's not something for if you want to plan for it, fine. That's also a beautiful way. You want to make sure you receive a handsome or a beautiful benefit during retirement. What it meant is you need to make sure that your contributions are huge. And how does your contribution become huge? Your basic salary. Now, the argument now is what you've seen most employers do is that instead of increasing our basic, they will rather create some allowances, they create some reward system, and we are happy we are taking them. Instead of telling the employer to increase our basic salary so that our SNET figure will become huge, our payment of SNET will be high, so that at the end of the day, when you are going on retirement, you receive a handsome or a beautiful wages in retirement. We are rather happy, rejoicing when they bring on allowances, new allowances, of which it doesn't form part of your Senate calculations in terms of contribution. So that's where, as employees, you need to take notice of and always tell our employers, instead of creating the allowances, eating all our eggs before they are hatched, they should add it to our basic salary. Or the government should make it a law. It should now be a law that all our allowances system, our Senate contributions are calculated on our total remuneration, whether being it a reward, being it an allowance. That is where our Senate calculation should be based on. So because you see most institutions in the country receiving a very good remuneration, they are in suit. Their allowances are bigger than their basic salary, and they are happy. They are happy. They are happy in suit. They are enjoying today. You go and see them after retirement, and you say, this was the guy. He was working in a very good, reputable institution. How is he faring now? You see the comparison and where you saw him and how he's living now. There's no suit how he or she was working. That's the main cause, because our contribution is based on our basic salary. It doesn't include our allowances and other remunerations. So that's where the argument should start from. So right from now, if you want to create that, if you want to do that, let's force our employers that our allowances, huge allowances they have been giving us, I don't want to name them because I don't know other institutions what they receive. We have a lot of allowances. Most institutions, it has been created in what to convince us I remember when the COVID came, they created something. What was it? Something living allowance, and some people were going on demonstrations. They were happy. Instead of asking the government to use that to top up their basic salary so that their Senate contributions will increase, they want to receive something today and chop. So they were happy. You are not going to work if you don't give us this allowance, this allowance, that and that and that allowance. That will not solve our pension issues. That will not solve our pension issues. So let's take a second look at that. Let's include all allowances in our basic listing so that the calculation of our pension contributions will be based on it, so that you will receive a good package. And that will also give us a good benefit payment in our retirement. Thank you.
So
Hello.
yes, Mr. Jackson is what you said.
Come again on what?
Mr. Jackson follow up what you said which is for Jackson. How one
Tier 1 and tier 2 for what?
yes, he said mentioned that the one for so
Can I
what
really hear you?
no hello
Hello, Mr. Egan.
is Mr. Jackson from his accent that is following up on what you said that see the one the preparation towards so he's asking what or how do one therefore prepares for exam.
I really hear this. You see, he's asking that I said you use tier 1
Yeah,
and 2 as what?
that said don't you don't see tier one and two as preparation for exam.
Yeah.
So
And so,
he's asking how do one therefore prepares for exam. What is
how does one get fully prepared for retirement? Is that not
yes,
so?
yes,
Oh, okay. That's why I said the scheme is called 3-tier pension scheme. As I said earlier on, you know, from tier 1 to tier 2, you have 18.5%, of which 2.5% goes to the National Health Insurance Scheme. The 5% goes to your tier 2, and the the remaining 11% goes to your Senate or your tier 1 contribution. So look at it. You have a huge part also sitting, 16.5% sitting for your tier 3, which is voluntary, of which the government is telling you is voluntary. And so, because they said it's voluntary, you are not interested. You are not contributing towards that. But you want to go back after years of service and enjoy, saying, oh, I was part of one of what they said is one of the best pension scheme. But look at what I'm receiving. That's what most people are now saying. And when you go into it, you realize that they were not contributing anything in their third tier. Some even said they've never heard of anything third tier or whatever. What all these things meant is they were never interested. If you are interested, you will hear of it. 16.5%. You've been absent-minded to retirement and you want to enjoy. You can't enjoy that way. That's why I said the figures are not there for just auxiliary sake. It was a detailed research analysis of the economy and the system you are working with that came out with those figures. And for that matter, if you want to enjoy fully at your retirement, you should make full utilization of the available figures you've given to you. That's what we are talking about. So if you want to enjoy in your retirement, make a good living at your retirement, travel at your retirement, live as better than in your active service, that you have to make sure you are utilizing fully all the benefits under the 3-tier pension scheme, including the 16.5% under the 3rd tier, which is voluntary. And so if your employer is not contributing for you, contribute for yourself. Make it, a dedicated contribution for yourself. Start now. And I said, it should start now because it's about time. The earlier you start, the better it is. You don't wait when you have a little about 5 to less than 10 years to go on retirement, then you are now serious about it. We all cannot be fortunate about that if your basic is not good enough, if your income sources are not good enough to contribute a huge amount towards that time. You'll be doing yourself a disservice. So start now. If not fully, little by little. If, I don't have much now to start, I can start with 100 Ghana in a private pension management. You can start with a 50 Ghana. You can start, everyone in his own ability. But the question is, start now. So that when you monitor and when you see by yourself that it's growing, it will push you to do more. So that by the time you go on retirement, you have done a handsomely well. But you can enjoy your retirement. That's what I was talking about. So if you look at your tier 1 and tier 2 alone, and you said you have a good pension, so you go on retirement and enjoy it, it's still a lie. That's why I have to be frank with you. It's still a lie. Because you have allowed the 16.5% to rot away. Almost half of that analysis has been rotting away, and you are saying you want to enjoy at your retirement because someone said it's one of the best pension scheme system you have. No, and that's not what I'm talking about. When I say it's one of the best pension scheme, it's about the full utilization of the pension system. And the responsibility has been laid upon you as the individual contributor to make sure you utilize the system. The platforms have been laid. Now, the tier 3, if you want to register now, even online, we can register you. You can make your contributions through your electronic system. We can make your complaints, your withdrawal, everything online system. So you have no excuse now. There's nothing like, I don't know where I'm supposed to pay it. I can't register and those kind of things. Those questions are no longer there because of e-registration, because of e-payment, because of e-withdrawal. And so all these systems have been laid to you, have been made bare to you. All these platforms have been laid. And for that matter, there's no excuse any longer. You don't have excuse. You can give only flimsy excuses to ourselves that we couldn't contribute because our income was low, because I didn't know where to send the money to, because I didn't know where I should start from. No, that argument is no longer there because we have e-system of contribution. If you are not aware, you raise up, the coordinator will give you a system to register and start paying. It's not something difficult. Even from now you are watching us, we can register you. You can make your payment. You can make your inquiries, all through our systems, and you are free to go. So I don't know if the question is answered.
Yes, sir. Question. Let's see. Well, all right.
Mm. Voice.
Oh,